현재 전부도 님이 정도는 모는 전부는 가져도 밖으로 다른 잔도 실물도 tum바도 제잔라기 좀처럼 이제 저르르 정금서 저걸 뒤지셔는 일라 지금 번조자라 소라도 공주 토반보를 신지로 공주 토반보를 신지로 공주 토반보를 신지로.
Profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we can hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate all the sentient beings, please give rise to the unsurpassed and supreme bodhicitta.
Xianriangzi maung jisten namsi rikji wogam rikji womo kanshika taba chimbom dorde la samji me chipa jyotu me pe tapa tang damba tang zapor jesha. Dorde te tang damba tang lor chiparan dot ne geyu shini kungam dando damba top kyang te ma takta. Etc. Yak jyotu me pe tapa tang damba tang zapor jesha. Dorde te tang dombar tang lor chitparan dot ne geyu shini kungam dan ne damba top kyang te ma takta jitte lo tang dawa mambo vartam dorde te domba tang lo chipar mani na te rikji wogam rikji womo te tak tserab ngam leki dripa matak be thakba chimbum dorde hlokba tang lo chipar mani pa yano te tar gangzak gang shanchib sanwa sayi nyambum chantu pa tang shanchib sanwa sayi nyambur kagzgum tongne te la kipa semgi xoran de pa tang po tang metok tang Pudang, Metokdang, Kudang, Zaptongdang, Tseche la, Sokpem, Chopan, Barwadang, Devjin de Chik Zami, Gung, Nyin, Tsan, Chigde, Shanchib San Hui, Ki, Shkirzik Jimdan de Jirne, Yitang, Gone, Tarmo Jarte, Jar Hoshuksu, Korne, Chete, Ranga, Karptong, Shago. Dene Jig Dunchak Chigne, Ximji Varta, Gogba la Sokbi, Zhengava Rengadang, Xiachangdang, Devjin Dundopi, Lukberg Yembadang, Zindar Mavadang, Chukchopar, Namjang, Pangrev Shao. Dine Rikji Wogam, Rikji Womo, Tetakla, Mulam de Shanchu Sanwa, Sai Nyambur, Kum Tai Bar Nangni, Chi Wang Kur Toba Go, Gangzak Denit, Nile Sapana, Vlor Nover Tiernem, Dorde Tetak, Navar Tomba Zamji, Yongsen Zambr Nijang Tana, Di Tsigam, Tsigchik Chig Zamyang, Tandab Jipper Manjoro, Shanezig, Mawanjik Namsa, Ganzak Ganjik, Zekuti, Brava, Zekuti, Warvatan, Dopa Tokdam, Makervatan, Nan Mambum Shongatan, Nyamni Manda, Shongatan, Kimsang Mabdevatan, Kurnam Torvatan, Di Mayim Bin Jigbala Soba Tokdam Babagam, Yanar Mulam Dayang, Jigbala Soba Shona, Di Shanchu Sanwa Sai Nyambum San Tuba Dang, Di Shkirzik Jarte, Kipa Yikim San Chokchik Dombana, Di Ne Mendot Ba Tamjid Rimji Jine, Deva Tobaran Yerwa Dang, Zeku Pusum Zokbam Shone, Jongwane, Zon, Munum Tamchikyang Devaran Yero, Shanez Mawan Jikten Nam Siriki Rikyu Mokanjik, Ranit, Sovi Cheta Gam, Shi Cheta Gam, Kirki Cheta Gam, Kiwi, Stinchi Cheta Gam, Yana, Jerry Shawar Namgi Cheta, Roglongdang, Naksardang, Yamtsodang, Chihlongdang, Chichimbodang, Lamchang Ngamba Sok Gilguna, Tomar Shanchib Sanwa Sai Nyambum San Chikchik Doni, Sona Di Yirla, Savdagar Namgi, Ganzak Dev Chongwadang, Devjindan Roadang, Nebadang, Dobadang, Nyarwala Sobir Kausayang, Tandav Devarin Gero, Tana, Stakdang, Shinkadang, Sanketang, Tik Namgi Kyang, Nopra Manjero. Jondun Deji, Shanri Ziglab Karsarva, Shanchu Sanwa Sai Nyambong, Zamelang, Simchan Namla, Lemjir Kabarchan, Yodo, De, Stardan, Joar Namji, Shanchu Sanwa Sai Nyambong, Tongadang, Tuba Payon, Kara Yartong Chak, Kanang of Jotyam Tamamchi So, Dina, Shanri Zig, Chokir, Zimcher Laf, Tenem, Dorden Danit, Shukshuksa, Tarar Kishi. Terter Shina, Mumjin Jistinjin, Roarnam, Kara Yarton, Chipchakavarta, Devala Long Shupran Gero, Tizip, Jondan Deji, Six of Japan, the cut of Gastarto.
Today, I would like to share something with you before the teaching of the Ksitigarbha Sutra. First, next Monday and Tuesday, I will continue teaching the Ksitigarbha Sutra. For the remaining content, it may take 1, 2, or 3 more sessions. I haven't known exactly. We'll have as many sessions as it takes. If it takes 3 sessions, then we'll have 3 sessions. If it takes 2.5, then we'll have 2.5 sessions. If we can finish in 1 session, then we'll have just 1. We will go with the flow. What will I teach after that? I have not confirmed it yet. Originally, I wanted to teach the Sutra of Great Liberation. These past few days, I have been really wanting to teach this, but the books have not been prepared, so there may be some difficulties. At the very least, we need to have the text to read. As for the text, it is in the Taisho Tripitaka. There are different versions. I have compared the Tibetan and Chinese versions. Some parts in the Chinese version are not in the Tibetan, and some in the Tibetan, especially the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, are slightly different from the Chinese version. Everything else is quite good. I am not sure yet. We will see how things go then. I hope to teach the Sutra of Great Liberation this year very much. If I can successfully teach it, then everyone can attain liberation, which would be wonderful, because this sutra truly has immense merit. We will see later on. The main issue is the textbook. Other things may not be a problem. If we need to copy the text by hand, it would require a lot of work. That may not be feasible. We will see when the time comes. It has not been confirmed yet. That is one matter. Next, I would like to share something I saw today. In the Mula Sarvastivada Vinaya, there is a teaching that is quite important for many of us practitioners. What does it say? Gossiping on trivial matters, wearing scruffy clothes, showing up uninvited. These are 3 things despised by people. This is a teaching also given by the Buddha. Everyone should understand the meaning. If we have something important to say, we should speak up. As Jumifam Rinpoche taught, important matters must be expressed. Otherwise, no one would know. But when there is nothing important, if there is too much gossip and rumors sometimes, there are too many words of right and wrong. Some people keep talking endlessly. It is not good. We should always observe our own speech. Speak when it is appropriate, and when it is not appropriate, it is best not to speak. Especially when speaking out of jealousy or expressing insecurities or revealing private secrets. If you say too much, in the end, you yourself will be very troubled and face a lot of problems. Because of your own words, many people may become dissatisfied with you. Jumifam Rinpoche also said that many enmities and friendships in this world are caused by speech. There are a lot such cases. This is the first aspect. The second aspect is wearing rather dirty clothes. Generally speaking, whether we are lay people or monastics, we should all wear clean and proper clothing. We should also wear clothing that is suitable for ourselves. We should not wear clothes that are particularly dirty or stained, or even clothing that is not suitable for seasons. Some of our fellow practitioners here, even though it is now summer or autumn, still keep wearing cotton shoes and padded pants in summer. Perhaps their health is particularly poor, but it seems a bit strange. Only a very small number of people are like that. Sometimes maybe my eyes are not pure, but I often see some fellow practitioners not wearing properly. I am not sure what is going on. In any case, a person's clothing is indeed very important. It does not mean we must wear particularly beautiful or splendid clothing. That is not necessarily required. If necessary, it is also fine. For example, on major festivals or during chalk offering, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas may also do this, and great masters in the past also had such practices. But most importantly, clothing that suits oneself is very important. Everyone should pay attention to this. Sometimes, especially when one has just started learning Buddhism, one thinks that everything must be renounced and that one must wear tattered clothing. But actually, if the mind does not renounce attachment, wearing tattered clothes is useless. In the 80s, back when we were here, in the upper area of the Jewel Sword district, there was someone who has now passed away called Lama Gayer. He wore particularly tattered clothing. Once, His Holiness criticized him in class, saying, if the mind does not renounce, wearing tattered clothes is useless. So, especially now, there is no need to wear tattered clothing. Everyone should dress in a way that suits yourselves. Third, if others do not invite you, do not go knocking on their doors and visiting them uninvited. Going to this house for a meal today, and to that house for a meal tomorrow. But when others come to visit you, you do not welcome them at all. This is also not good for practitioners. Everyone should have their own personal space. Unless there are special circumstances, we should respect other people's time. This includes visiting, calling, or sending messages. Some people really just don't have the time to do these things. But when you tell someone, I don't have time, they get upset and ask, why are you like this? Are you dissatisfied with me? Do you not care about me? This kind of attitude is also not good. These 3 things were taught by the Buddha. If we talk too much, dress poorly, and keep going to other people's houses every day, Gradually, others will look down upon you. Whether we are practitioners or worldly people, we should all examine ourselves to see if we have such faults. If we do, we should try our best to correct them and become good practitioners who follow the Dharma properly. That is a simple matter I wanted to share earlier. Today, I would like to talk about something from the brief records of efficacy of the three jewels. It quotes a story about Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva from the Buddhist sutras. In the past, when the Buddha was in this world, he resided at Vulture Peak. At that time, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva traveled everywhere to teach and benefit sentient beings. Once he saw at the foot of a mountain there was an elder's household where 500 people had their vital energy seized by evil ghosts. They had fallen into a stupor and had not recovered for 10 days. At that time, when Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva saw this situation, he felt these sentient beings were particularly pitiful. He immediately went to where the Buddha was and told the Buddha the whole story, hoping the Buddha would permit him to go and benefit them. The Buddha then emitted light from the top of his head. All the retinue knew that when the Buddha emits light, there is a special cause and auspicious condition. At this time, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva understood this was the Buddha's permission for him. Then he said, in my causal ground in the past, I also encountered similar situations with some people. There were similar circumstances. At that time, before a rishi, I obtained some mantras, and through these mantras, all the sick people were cured. Later, after he knew the Buddha had given permission, he personally went there to them and began to bless them with his method. After the blessing, these 500 people all regained consciousness. He taught and guided them. There is such a story in some Buddhist sutras. This story was later used in history in similar ways. It should have been during the Tang dynasty. There was a family surnamed Li with about 30-some people. And these 30-some people once were disturbed by evil spirits. Among these 30-some people, some were vomiting blood, some fainted, some were in pain. All the people became like this. At that time, they found some monks to help solve the problem. The monk said, I once saw in the Buddhist sutras that at that time there were also 500 people who were tormented by evil ghosts, and Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva saved them. You can also use this method, such as making images of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, reciting the name of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. If you pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva in this way, perhaps there will be a solution. Later, this family followed the monk's guidance to copy an image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and recite the name of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Indeed, in a very short time, all the sick people fully recovered. For 50 years, this kind of strange illness never appeared again. That is how it is written in history. So, in some places where we live, whether it is plagues or regional epidemics, sometimes many strange illnesses also appear. Or in some households, the entire family, this person gets sick, that person also gets sick. Some have the same illness, some have different illnesses. Some families are really pitiful. There isn't a single healthy person in the whole family, and everyone is suffering from all kinds of strange illnesses. In such situations, we should also sincerely and wholeheartedly pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and make images of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. If we do this, the original misfortune can be dispelled. These kinds of illnesses or some evil ghosts and spirits, some of these ghosts and spirits may seize vital energy, some may scatter various viruses. At such times, praying to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is indeed very important. Today, let us also pray together. In this present age, sentient beings are indeed quite pitiful. Look, not to mention what the news says about this disease and that disease today. Just speaking of the pandemic now in many countries, including Bhutan and Sikkim and many countries in Southeast Asia, it is still quite serious. Situations in Western countries are also very serious. It is hard to say whether it will appear again in winter. Up to now, according to official world statistics, more than 800,000 people have already passed away. We felt that at the start of 2020, everyone was posting online as if the pandemic wasn't that frightening yet. But in reality, many people have lost the lives they loved most. So, for those of us here, we who are listening today, or those of us teaching, will we still be in this world next year? It is possible, or perhaps not possible. There are various situations. No matter what, perhaps this is a kind of what we call a motivation, arising from seeking protection from fear, or a motivation driven by virtuous aspirations. No matter what, we should also sincerely pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva for ourselves, as well as all humanity and all sentient beings. If your lifespan has truly come to an end, we all understand that. But before the lifespan ends, we may encounter sudden death, illness, or disaster, which would be unworthy. So we should also sincerely pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva so that sentient beings in the entire world can reduce their suffering as much as possible. May every single sentient being enjoy their own merits and virtues.
Shanzhub Sanwa Sanwa Jimbo Sai Nyambo La Sham Salon Chodo Gyapsum Cheo Shanzhub Sanwa Sanwa Jimbo Sai Nyambo La Sham Salon Chodo Gyapsum Cheo Shanzhub Sanwa Sanwa Jimbo Sai Nyambo La Sham Salon Chodo Gyapsum Cheo Shanzhub Sanwa Sanwa Jimbo Sai Nyambo La Sham Salon Chodo Gyapsum Cheo Shanzhub Sanwa Sanwa Jimbo Sai Nyambo La Sham Salon Chodo Gyapsum Cheo Sanwa Sanwa Jimbo Sai Nyambo La Sham Salon Chodo Gyapsum Cheo Shanzhub Sanwa Sanwa Jimbo Sai Nyambo La Sham Salon Chodo Gyapsum Cheo Shanzhub Sanwa Sanwa Jimbo Sai Nyambo La Sham Salon Chodo Gyapsum Cheo Shanzhub Sanwa Sanwa Jimbo Sai Nyambo La Sham Salon Chodo Gyapsum Cheo Shanzhub Sanwa Sanwa Jimbo Sai Nyambo La Sham Salon Chodo Gyapsum Cheo Shanzhub Sanwa Sanwa Jimbo Sai Nyambo La Sham Salon Chodo Gyapsum Cheo Sai Nyambo Gyuji Tukye Dam Zabar Monam Gyentse Nibi Lame Yishi Gyamzhi Chenja Tenja Konur Dakson Gyur Sho.
During this teaching of the Ksitigarbha Sutra, it seems many people have developed faith. In the future, on one hand, they are willing to propagate the teaching and practice of Ksitigarbha. On the other hand, many people also hope that if there is an opportunity in their own places, in their own communities in the future, thirdly, they themselves want to practice the Ksitigarbha teachings. On this point, when I first started translating and when I began teaching, I did not expect to achieve such results. Perhaps I also rely on the blessings of my gurus and various auspicious causes and conditions. No matter what Dharma I teach, I have a strong inclination toward the teaching. Even if it is relatively dry subjects, such as the Abhidharma Kosa or Buddhist logic, I am still full of confidence and should have a particularly special feeling when teaching. I also teach in that way, not to mention the Ksitigarbha Sutra. On one hand, I think that with natural disasters occurring so frequently and with the external environment being quite unstable, people have become more willing to accept this Ksitigarbha practice. Many people are afraid of death and afraid of disasters occurring. In the past, when we asked everyone to listen to teachings, they did not like to listen and would go out every day to be distracted. Now, as long as there is a method, no matter what, they are willing to accept it. Many people have lowered their standards. Perhaps there are also reasons for this. Another reason is that no matter what Dharma I teach, I still have strong confidence. Perhaps it is indeed the blessing of the predecessors that quickly allows everyone to resonate and feel empowered. Everyone receives some strength or some inspiration. So this time we can see these teachings on the Ksitigarbha practice have been really effective. Many people in the past may have also done this. In both the Han region and the Tibetan region, many great masters have also propagated the teaching and practice of Ksitigarbha. But this time, I did not expect that everything would be quite satisfactory, including the scope, the number of participants, and everyone's enthusiasm for practice. Of course, I do not know if this effect can be sustained in the long term. Every time we listen to a teaching, we think we must recite this sutra and must propagate this teaching. After 2 or 3 years, we forget again. However, everyone should plant such virtuous roots and imprints. In the future, they will propagate it. I think among us here, whether lay people or monastics, everyone has the opportunity to propagate such teachings, which should bring great benefit to sentient beings. Next, let us look at the text. Continuing from yesterday, we will go on with the discussion. At that time, the Buddha told Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, if in the future there are good men and good women who wish to fulfill hundreds of thousands of myriads of millions of wishes in the present and future, some good men and good women have particularly many desires and wishes for the present, hundreds of thousands of myriads of millions. As for the future, they also have many aspirations, such as what my future dream is, what my ideal is, and so forth. They have particularly many wishes. There are also hundreds of thousands of myriads of millions of undertakings. They want to accomplish and succeed in hundreds of thousands of myriads of millions of tasks. Some have these wishes in their hearts. In actual action, they have some tasks to accomplish. There are particularly many like this. Unless someone has no ideals at all, no wishes whatsoever, and is only concerned about eating 3 meals a day. Besides that, regarding benefits for self and others, there is nothing to think about except for that kind of person. Generally speaking, especially Mahayana Buddhists, Mahayana practitioners, will definitely have many tasks to benefit sentient beings and many aspirations. In such cases, as long as one takes refuge, gazes reverently, makes offerings and praises before the image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, all of them can be fulfilled. First, one should take refuge and then often gaze reverently and pay homage. Sometimes when we look at those Buddha images, faith naturally arises and we join our palms in reverence. Sometimes when we go to some temples or arrive at some Buddha halls, when particularly majestic Buddha images appear before us, as we pray and gaze at their sublime countenances, it seems as if light emanates naturally from their bodies and dissolves into ourselves. Actually, gazing reverently and paying homage are sometimes causes for generating faith. In this way, before Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, if we make offerings, praise, and prostrate, then all wishes and aspirations will be fulfilled. All of these can be achieved as one wishes. As also mentioned in the Sutra of the 10 Wheels of Ksitigarbha, should one ask for crops, medicines, fields, husband, wife, clothes, or servants, take refuge in Ksitigarbha and worship him, then all wishes can be fulfilled. If we want to obtain grains, medicines, fields, even companions, servants, clothing, and so forth, in short, everything we need and want to obtain in this world, all of these things, as long as we respectfully take refuge, gaze reverently, pray, and make offerings to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, everything we seek will be fulfilled. We also mentioned before that he can fulfill all wishes indeed. It is also mentioned in the Sutra on the divination of the effect of good and evil actions, why Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is able to fulfill all wishes of sentient beings. Actually, it is because his aspirational power is different. In the past, Master Hong Yi also spoke on this topic and answered questions from some inquirers. But I think his way of answering may not be exactly the same as what we think in some respects. Most importantly, the aspirational power of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is very important. The aspiration made by Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is to fulfill the wishes of sentient beings. This is very important. What about the aspiration of Manjushri Bodhisattva to rescue sentient beings from the darkness of ignorance and grant them wisdom? As for Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, he wishes for sentient beings to be free from suffering and attain happiness. The focus of each aspiration is different. It's like although they are in the same university in our world, their majors are different. These bodhisattvas in their causal grounds made aspirations in these aspects throughout many lifetimes and eons. So when we sentient beings pray to him, he can immediately fulfill our wishes. The main reason he can fulfill the wishes of sentient beings lies here. So praying to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, it is indeed very important. Some of us say we have held many Ksitigarbha Dharma assemblies at Larungar, but I have never recited sincerely. In the future, I will recite sincerely, but I do not know if there will be assemblies in the future. Perhaps we have studied the Ksitigarbha Sutra quite well. Previously, we did not know Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was so powerful and that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva has so many blessings. Actually, by making aspirations before Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, one can propagate the Dharma and benefit sentient beings in the future and be able to fulfill the wishes of sentient beings, just like Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Actually, it is also very difficult for us to do this. Sometimes it is very difficult for us to fulfill the wishes of sentient beings. For example, I want to benefit them very much, but each sentient being has different appeals and different sufferings. So indeed, there is a certain degree of difficulty. But as long as we make aspirations, I believe the power of aspirations is inconceivable. Moreover, may Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, who possesses great compassion and great kindness, always protect me. Because Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva possesses great compassion and great kindness, he will always protect us, always protect oneself, the one who just prayed and made offerings. Then in their dreams, this person will receive the placing of hands on their crown, predictions and blessings from Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Actually, a person's faith is very important. If we truly have faith in Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva or in Guru Padmasambhava, if we have particularly strong faith, then the practices we engage in will be accomplished very quickly. Just as during the day we think of our lover with great longing, with particular intensity, so too we think of the merits and aspirations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas with great intensity. If you maintain this practice during the day, then what you think about during the day you will dream about at night. Indeed, the blessings of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have immediate effects. If we pray ourselves, but not with much intensity, if our prayers are not so heartfelt, then perhaps the blessings we receive will be relatively slower. It seems some of us say, I have done retreat for so many years, I have recited mantras so many times, I do my daily practice every day like this. But perhaps at that time our mind was quite distracted and our behavior was not particularly in accordance with the Dharma. There is this possibility. So sometimes when we don't get any special experiences or don't receive blessings, we should not complain that Buddhas and Bodhisattvas lack power. It is because we ourselves have not practiced properly and in accordance with the Dharma. It is like not following the instructions or the doctor's orders when taking medicine. If you just take medicine casually and your illness is not cured as a result, then blaming the doctor may also be unreasonable. Next, it says, furthermore, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, if in the future there are good men and good women who have particularly strong faith in the Mahayana Sutras, they deeply treasure them, they particularly like them, feeling that Mahayana Sutras are particularly precious and particularly important. Then they also generate an inconceivable resolve, and they wish to read and to recite them from memory, wanting to read them well, wanting to memorize them well, determined to read them well and memorize them well. Then, although they encounter a wise teacher refers to someone who particularly understands the teachings. It does not mean a famous teacher, even though the two terms sound the same in Chinese. Among famous masters, there are various situations. Generally speaking, it is better for a master not to be famous. If they are famous, it is not necessarily very good. Although they have no fame, they practice very diligently and are highly knowledgeable in the teachings, because among the characteristics of qualified gurus, they should be proficient in both sutra and tantra, and they should also have actual practice. Such a wise teacher gives him guidance, helping him become familiar with the teachings, but no sooner have they learned them, they forget. Because this person's karma is quite heavy, although he wants to master the Mahayana Sutras, and the master also gives him instructions and guidance and transmits the teachings to him, after receiving them, he immediately forgets. In this way, months and even years pass, months and even years slowly pass over a very long time, yet he still cannot read or recite from memory. His affinity with Mahayana Sutras is not that compatible, and there is simply no way to read or recite from memory. At this time, what is the reason? These good men and so forth means good women. Actually, they have karmic obstacles from past lives. In the past, they may have slandered the Dharma, been stingy with Dharma teachings, or engaged in unwholesome acts like killing, adultery, the 5 crimes with immediate retribution and the like, and so on. Such karma has not been purified, so such karma could obscure them from reading and memorizing the Mahayana Sutras. Their habitual tendencies have never been able to change. Some people are indeed particularly slow-witted. Sometimes we see 2 people starting together to memorize certain scriptures. One would be able to memorize many verses in a short time, while the other would not be able to remember even a short verse after a long time. I do not know if I have mentioned a story in the Vinaya Sutra. At the time of the Buddha, there was a monk called Chula Panthaka. His elder brother asked him to memorize a verse. What kind of verse? Create no evil karma in terms of body, speech, and mind, nor harm any living beings in the world. The meaning is that do not create evil karma in body, speech, and mind, and also do not harm the sentient beings of the world. Be aware and mindful that the object of desire is empty, and stay away from meaningless austerities. Such a verse, the meaning is to say, use correct knowledge and correct mindfulness to observe all objects of desire as being of the nature of emptiness, and we should stay away from meaningless austerities. The meaning of this verse is very simple. However, the small smaller path memorized this verse for 3 months. We probably do not need 3 months. 3 minutes, or in a very short time, we should be able to memorize it, right? But he still had no way to memorize it after 3 months. Why was he so slow-witted? The Buddha also explained in the Vinaya Sutra, because in the past, when Kashyapa Buddha appeared in the world, he was a very remarkable master of the Tripitaka, but at that time he was particularly stingy with the Dharma and reluctant to transmit even a single verse or stanza to others. Because of this reason, after he died, he was reborn in the celestial realm. Later, he fell to the human realm. When he was in the human realm, he became a butcher who killed pigs. Once when he wanted to sell pork, if he did not slaughter them on the spot, he might not be able to sell it. So he brought the pigs, boarded a boat, the pigs and he himself crossed the river together. At that time, the pigs moved about and finally the boat capsized. The two of them fell into the river. At this time, he had not yet died and continued to drift along with the current. After drifting for a period of time, one of the Pratyeka Buddhas who were meditating by the riverbank discovered him and saved him through supernatural powers. The pig-slaughtering butcher then stayed at the place where the Pratyeka Buddhas practiced. There were no pigs to slaughter, and it was probably impossible to find any pigs or other animals to kill, so he would gather fruits for these Pratyeka Buddhas and serve them every day. Later, he himself also meditated. His meditation was relatively good because he had previously also been a celestial being. Later, he was reborn in the heaven of conception free. After that, he came to the human realm and became Chula Panthaka, because previously he was stingy when he was a Dharma master. Also, in the celestial realm, he often generated wrong views. Moreover, when he was a human, he killed living beings. With such karma, he became particularly slow-witted in the very life. So some of us, being slow-witted, sentient beings, actually should not complain about fate and blame others. Why is it that my mother did not let me study well, or why did my father treat me in such a way? Actually, it has a certain relationship with one's causes and conditions from past lives. We see some students are also the same. At first, they want to study very much. They particularly admire students who have relatively better grades. Some who are slow-witted have particularly little confidence and no way forward, especially during major exams when they take tests. Students without wisdom are also quite pitiful. But indeed, pitiful people still have their hateful aspects. In the past, they still did many evil acts, so in this life, they also become slow-witted. There is also this reason. Among us, if there are some who are relatively slow-witted, on one hand, repentance is very important. On the other hand, praying to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and praying to Manjushri Bodhisattva is also beneficial for you to cultivate wisdom in this very life. Here it talks about those who are particularly slow-witted, who have no way to memorize even a single verse of the Mahayana Sutras. Those people can also be transformed very likely by relying on the blessings of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. How should they do it? Such a person, having heard the name of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and having seen the image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, should respectfully state their situation with their full original resolve, should make offerings of incense, flowers, clothing, food, drink, and all material objects they enjoy to the Bodhisattva, all the things and resources that one likes. Here, all material objects they enjoy. Everything in the world is just for fun. So anything we have can also be called objects to enjoy, right? This teacup is also an object to enjoy. My drinking tea is also enjoying, right? Offer all material objects they enjoy to the Bodhisattva. This is the first aspect. Make various offerings before the image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. As for this food and drink, generally in Tibetan Buddhism, many foods are represented by tormas. Generally, tormas represent food. In our temples or when holding Dharma assemblies, we often made particularly elaborate tormas, including butterflowers. They have an artistic quality and also represent food and such offerings. Then scoop a cup of pure water, place it before Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva for 1 day and 1 night. Afterward, oneself should join their palms, implore reverently, take hold of the cup, turn to face south and drink the water. The south is a direction that has a special connection with Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. We also mentioned this before. Then oneself drinks the water. When the water is about to enter their mouths, they should be wholeheartedly sincere and earnest. They shouldn't drink the water with hesitation, doubt, or other distracting thoughts or various discursive thoughts. In that way, it is not reasonable. After drinking like this temporarily, one must be very careful. Abstain from the 5 pungent plants, such as onions, garlic, also shallots, chives, in any case. Regarding the 5 pungent plants, there are different opinions. Some add shallots and asafoetida and also leeks. There may be different opinions. Because they have some foul odors many celestial beings and yidams will not approach. There is such a saying. Individuals should also abstain from alcohol, meat, sexual misconduct, false speech, and killing. All of these should be avoided. Then, during 7 days or 21 days during such a long period of time, one should prohibit the 5 pungent plants. If one does this, as good men and good women in their dreams, they may see Ksitigarbha appear in their dreams, conferring them with empowerment and blessings by pouring water on the crowns of their heads. When this person awakens from the dream, they may experience an increase in intelligence, allowing them to remember and retain whatever teachings in sutras that comes into their ears, remembering the whole content and never forgetting even a stanza or phrase. This means they will have gained dharani, the ability to retain all kinds of dharma without ever missing anything. Indeed, there are some who have affinity, or those with sufficient faith. Previously, they were particularly slow-witted, but later, perhaps through their own diligent efforts, or perhaps through the blessings of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, their wisdom increased. We can also find examples among our community of hearing, contemplating, and practicing the Dharma. When they first arrived, their level of secular education was also very low. They looked a bit silly and slow-witted, that kind of blank, dazed expression as if you could talk to them for a long time and they would respond, "Huh? What did you say? Huh?" Just like that. But gradually they became intelligent. In the end, their debating, memorizing, and many other aspects became very impressive. So sometimes in our worldly context, we also see cases where innate intelligence and later learning both play a role. But some are very difficult to change, and some indeed can, including some Khenpos and Khenmos who now teach and explain the Dharma. In my memory, each person still has their biography. Some were quite good when they first arrived. They were relatively good in all aspects. Some, when they first arrived, were not so good. In my impression, they were not so good, but now they are quite good. Including some Dharma instructors, of course, this is also related to their merit and virtuous roots. Some have very good wisdom, but gradually, it seems like their own wisdom, perhaps related to morality, discipline, and behavior, many causes and conditions were not fulfilled. Finally, in propagating the Dharma and benefiting beings, they did not play the role initially imagined. Initially, we felt this person was very good in teaching and explaining the Dharma. What a pity. Even later, their views and conducts turned out to be less than ideal. There are also such cases. Some people had no particular wisdom and no particular practice at the beginning, but gradually, they could be said to have changed relatively quickly. It should be said that the efficiency of hearing, contemplating, and practicing had immediate and very swift effects. Once, when His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche was alive, he told us about every single Khenpo at Larungar, how such and such person was when he arrived, having lice on their body, how their clothes were, and so on. In any case, each of those who are now considered great Khenpos was scolded once. When you first arrived, some had no food, some people were like this or that. At that time, what was said about me was not very severe. I thought, oh no, I'm in trouble. Maybe my turn will come soon too, because His Holiness also has very good eloquence. At the time when he speaks, it seems this person is particularly pitiful and embarrassed. But what he said about me was not very severe. Many Khenpos were spoken of relatively harshly. I think regarding our Khenpos and Khenmos in the Han Sangha, if I were to talk about them, there are also some things to say. When it is necessary, each person should be properly spoken about regarding their past. You may feel, our Khenpo, they were originally such pitiful people. This way would be relatively better. Later, because the Khenmos and Khenpos drank Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's water, now they are not like that anymore. Next, it says, furthermore, the Buddha said, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, in the future, if there are people whose food and clothing are insufficient, having nothing to eat and nothing to wear. Now the entire world is still relatively concerned about food. Each country is quite concerned about it. Due to the pandemic, trade between countries has changed somewhat from how it used to be. For many countries, during a certain period of time, they did not pay much attention to agriculture or livestock. For example, countries like Malaysia and Thailand used to be almost entirely agricultural nations, but later shifted their entire economy toward tourism. As a result, much farmland was left abandoned. So globally speaking, regarding food and provisions, everyone needs to rethink and refocus on it. There is also a requirement for everyone to conserve. This is one aspect. There are also some who cannot obtain what they seek as they wish. Things go contrary to their wishes. Some people really find that nothing they want ever goes smoothly. The moment they set their mind on something, it somehow becomes difficult. Whatever they plan, it never works out. Nothing goes their way. Everything is just particularly unlucky, and they themselves think, why am I so unfortunate? Whatever I want does not work. Whatever I do does not go smoothly. There are also some who are born weak and frequently ill. Tibetan medicine, Western medicine, Chinese medicine, a whole pile. A big pile here, a big pile there. I am like this. I take one in the morning, one in the evening, one at noon. sometimes taking Tibetan medicine, sometimes taking Western medicine, sometimes taking that one. But now I have no choice but to take it. For some Western medicines, there's no choice. I have to take them. So some have many illnesses and some have much misfortune and decline. Various disasters, car accidents, earthquakes, tsunamis, shipwrecks, plane crashes, everything appears. Also, families or homes are without peace. I often think when a person dies, perhaps to this society there will not be much loss. Generally speaking, there will be no harm to the organization or department where they work. But for a family, no matter who dies, there is still a certain disaster. Father passed away, mother passed away, or the child, wife, or husband passed away. Then for their home, which was originally harmonious and complete, all of a sudden, this concept may be lost. When my mother passed away, from that moment on, it felt as if we had all been scattered as well. When she was alive, everyone gathered around her. We often had chances to meet with our siblings. Now, even if everyone is together, it seems like there is no center in the middle. Perhaps monastics are a bit better. When a monastic passes away, the family suffers little loss. If they pass away, then they pass away. But for lay people, their death would bring harm to the family. If they die, no matter what, there is still a certain loss. This is what I think. When monastics pass away, for example, abbots, khenpos, or masters at monasteries pass away, at first people say, "Oh, what a pity, what a pity." After a period of time, they hardly think about it anymore. It is not like a family. In Tibetan area, it is also like this. In Tibetan area, generally when a monastic dies after reciting prayers for 49 days for them, there will be little impact to the family because they have already left the family, so there is little impact. But with lay people, it is indeed somewhat different. Even if a child of just a few years old dies, their family will still feel that atmosphere of suffering for a very long time with no way to disperse it. Some families have no peace. Some families have people dying year after year, very inauspicious. There are also retinues scattered. For departments or leaders, their subordinates are often scattered. Today the factory closes, tomorrow everyone runs away. So those in charge cannot manage well. All the people below are full of conflicts. They themselves are also in unbearable pain. Next, they physically suffer frequent untoward occurrences like what was just mentioned: sudden untimely death, sudden illness, untimely events, accidents, various accidents just appear. Various terrors also often appear in dreams. One moment dreaming of dead people, another moment being pressed by ghosts. Especially when one's health is poor, it's common to have nightmares. This does happen. However, last night I dreamed of my guru. It was a very auspicious dream. But I won't say more. I've written it all down in my diary. After I pass away, my diary will still contain many of my dreams. While alive, I will temporarily not make them public. These are all dreams. I am not attached to them either. Actually, in our lives, many disasters are already written in here. If such people hear the name of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva or see the image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and with wholehearted reverence recite his name a full 10,000 times, then these disagreeable circumstances will gradually disappear. They will have peace and happiness thereafter. Their food and clothing will be abundant. And even in dreams, they will be peaceful and happy. They will obtain this peace and happiness. So I think for us worldly people, we will often encounter various kinds of disasters. When disasters have not come upon us, we have a saying: when the wind has not come, build walls. When the water has not come, build dams. So, when these disasters have not come, it is best to recite the Buddha's name and recite Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name. This time, we also have so many people joining together to study the Ksitigarbha Sutra. I also hope that within 1 or 2 months, everyone should recite 10,000 times the name of Ksitigarbha, Namo Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. If we cannot recite the Tibetan one, Namo Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, this is very quick. In one day, reciting tens of thousands is possible, but at the very least, let us create an auspicious connection. Some people have never established a connection with Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva in the past. I also hope that in the future, I will also make some statues of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. At that time, we can also give them to you. We have arrangements in this regard. At that time, we can give them to those with affinity. If you have the ability, in other places, like here at Larungar, there are very few people, so there is no need for many Ksitigarbha images and Ksitigarbha sutras. These are not needed. But if you yourselves have the ability, it is best to distribute Ksitigarbha images and Ksitigarbha sutras in various places. Establishing connections with Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is also very good. But no matter what, everyone who is listening to the class is required to recite. Either the Tibetan one that we recite every day, Bodhisattva, Great Bodhisattva Ksitigarbha, to you I pay homage, to you I make offerings, in you I take refuge. Recite this 10,000 times. At the longest, it should be completed within a year. If this is really not possible, Namo Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is also acceptable, because here in several places it says that reciting 10,000 times can eliminate all disasters. Now perhaps each of us, though monastics may be slightly better off in this respect, monastics truly are such that everywhere is home, nowhere is home, anywhere is fine anyway. We have a traditional saying in the Tibetan region, wherever a beggar dies, that's also where his walking stick will be destroyed. A beggar begs with a walking stick. If the beggar dies, the walking stick in his hand will also be gone there. So for us monastics, where a beggar dies, the stick breaks there. It doesn't really matter. Wherever they pass away, there's nothing much to hold on to. Perhaps what they're most attached to is their own body. But in the end, regarding the body, they have also studied the Prajnaparamita Sutra, understanding that the four great elements are all empty. This becomes less of a concern. But for lay people, for worldly people, they truly do need family, they need country, they need communities, and they also need their own resources for living, including all kinds of necessities, wealth, money, everything is needed. Without virtuous causes and conditions for these, for many people in this world, there can be considerable suffering and life can be quite difficult. In this present age, there is indeed a great need for the kind of intangible blessing power that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva provides. At the same time, each person themselves should also have a kind of brave and strong heart to face anything. This quality is something that everyone in the world greatly needs. No matter what circumstances we encounter, we ourselves should have wisdom, diligence, and patience. We shouldn't be the kind of people who, upon encountering even the slightest difficulty, immediately have our fragile hearts begin to shatter into pieces. Being unable to recover from a single setback, this is not good. Everyone should strive to be stronger. Next, what is taught? It says Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. In the future, there are some good men and good women for livelihood, for maintaining life, for living, or because of private matters, or due to official business, or for the great matter of birth and death, or because of some urgent matters, for these matters needing to enter the forests. And also crossing seas, rivers, or waters, or having some very difficult and dangerous roads. In such cases, if this person should recite in advance the name of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva 10,000 times, then, when passing through these places, all the earth deities and ghosts and spirits will protect them. In their walking, standing, sitting, and lying down, they will be protected at all times. Even in these dangerous places they travel to, if there are tigers, lions, or hungry wolves, all that is poisonous or harmful cannot harm them. In this worldly life, when going out, some people are relatively worried. Will I return home safely? They recite sutras, seeking blessings, seeking protection, thinking tomorrow I'm going to some place. But now, tigers, wolves, and lions have all become quite rare. Perhaps if you go deep into the mountains, you might encounter such things. But what's even more terrifying than tigers and lions are things like car accidents, plane crashes, epidemics, plus all kinds of harm from both humans and non-human beings. In these respects as well, if we ourselves can recite 10,000 times the name of Ksitigarbha and then go on our journey, it will be very smooth. The Buddha again told Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, this Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva has an extraordinarily deep karmic connection with the sentient beings of Jambudvipa. Here, it has been mentioned several times that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, he said to Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, previously he had said to Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, you also have affinity with the sentient beings of Jambudvipa. This is also correct. Now the Buddha tells him, not only do you have affinity with the sentient beings of Jambudvipa, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva has even greater affinity. If sentient beings see or hear, if they see the image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, hear the name of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, the merits and beneficial results of this cannot be fully explained even in hundreds of thousands of myriads of kalpas. Whether Shravakas or Pratyeka Buddhas were to speak of it, or Buddhas were to speak of it, or Bodhisattvas were to expound upon it, truly the benefits that sentient beings receive from seeing, hearing, experiencing, and knowing, that is to say, the overall benefits that sentient beings gain from encountering Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva in any way, cannot be fully explained, even in hundreds of thousands of myriads of kalpas. So, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, you must use your supernatural power to spread this sutra widely. You must use your blessing power, supernatural power, to disseminate this sutra, to propagate it to all places in the entire world, enable all sentient beings in the entire Saha world, in hundreds of thousands of myriads of kalpas, to forever experience happiness. At that time, the Buddha earnestly exhorted Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva in this way: propagate this Dharma relying upon your majestic power, enable sentient beings in the entire Saha world to obtain happiness. So, on one hand, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva will definitely bestow blessings and propagate this Dharma. On the other hand, we sentient beings now in this degenerate age should also find ways to propagate it to our human beings in the entire world. Now, regarding the Ksitigarbha Sutra, it seems the Korean Tripitaka has 4 different versions. In English, there are approximately 6 different versions. Translations probably began appearing in the early 1960s. There are also Italian translations, as well as Vietnamese, and many other countries have produced different versions in different languages. All of these vary from one another. In such cases, we should do our utmost to propagate this kind of Dharma teaching. And in propagating, both lay people and monastics have responsibility. As it also says in the Sutra of the Wise and the Foolish, delight in sutras and Dharma, praise, recite, and expound. We should delight in sutras and Dharma, praise, recite, and expound. Even if lay people expound the Dharma, all celestial beings, ghosts, and spirits will come to listen and receive. If lay people expound the Dharma, all celestial beings, ghosts, and spirits will also come to listen and receive. How much more so for monastics? How much more will this be true when monastics expound the Dharma? So, when we work to propagate the Dharma, it is also said in Buddhist sutras that when lay people expound the Dharma, celestial beings, ghosts, and spirits are all listening. In such cases, humans will also come to listen. Nowadays, some of our lay practitioners, some Dharma instructors, teach the Dharma in lay capacity. Some monastics, when going out to expound the Dharma, feel that monastic identity is not very convenient, so they wear some kind of nondescript clothing and then go up to the teaching platform. But I personally am not accustomed to this approach. If they truly don't welcome me as I am, then I simply won't go to teach there. Otherwise, to teach while wearing civilian clothes, I'm truly unwilling to do that. So at some schools that absolutely require this, I can only say, I'm sorry, perhaps we'll meet again in my next lifetime. Otherwise, in this life, there's no way I can remove my monastic robes. So both lay people and monastics can propagate the Dharma. For us, this Dharma teaching is also indeed very important. If everyone propagates in different ways in our present time, this opportunity should certainly be available. Whether in the Han Chinese regions or in Western countries, the Ksitigarbha Sutra can certainly be propagated. In the past, Venerable Master Mengchan said, when propagating the Dharma in the West, teaching the Avatamsaka Sutra is somewhat difficult, but teaching the Ksitigarbha Sutra is relatively easier. Many people accept it. Similarly, when Master Chin Kung teaching the Ksitigarbha Sutra in Singapore, he also said that one should first teach the Ksitigarbha Sutra, then teach the Infinite Life Sutra. This way, each sentient being receives benefit. Perhaps this kind of method is relatively good. At that time, Master Chin Kung taught the Ksitigarbha Sutra by relying on the commentary on the Ksitigarbha Sutra. Actually, the commentary on the Ksitigarbha Sutra should be written by an author from the time of Emperor Kangxi. Master Chin Kung would often explain section by section, first presenting his own explanation, and then he would also quote the explanations from the commentary on the Ksitigarbha Sutra. Actually, among all commentaries on the Ksitigarbha Sutra, the commentary on the Ksitigarbha Sutra is quite famous. In the past, many great masters also said the Ksitigarbha Sutra is very good, including when they were teaching the Dharma in the West. So whether we are lay people or monastics in this life as well as in future lives, everyone should also make aspirations to propagate the teaching and practice of Ksitigarbha. In propagating the teaching and practice of Ksitigarbha, various forms are possible, because sometimes when we check, there are different versions. The Ksitigarbha Sutra has been translated into various languages, and the images of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva as well. There are also many different versions with different postures and styles. I'd like to share with you several different images of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Around the world, there are some quite famous ones, including those in museums. There is one in the British Museum in the UK, which should be from modern times, said to be an image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva from Chinese Han Buddhism. This is collected in the British Museum in the UK. There is one from the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, in the United States. Its posture is relatively similar to other bodhisattvas' forms. There is also one from the Tokyo National Museum in Japan, an image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva dating approximately from the 14th century, which is also a very precious cultural relic. There is also one from the Palace Museum in Beijing, collected during the time of Emperor Qianlong. This one is said to be a Tibetan Buddhist image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, just like the shrine for the Ksitigarbha image we saw 2 or 3 days ago inside this Gawu box. It was perhaps crafted according to the methods described in the Ksitigarbha Sutra. The entire image, including all its emblems and such, are exactly the same as our Tibetan Buddhist image of Ksitigarbha. It was made at the time of Emperor Qianlong. It is now collected in the Palace Museum in Beijing. There is also one from Korea, from the National Museum of Korea. This one is also quite endearing and charming. Actually, in Japan as well, there is a small version. Japan's Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva also shares some similarities with this style. Oh, I just remembered there's another one as well. You can also take a look at it later. Depicted like a child, he serves as the protective deity of children. And traditionally, Japan has many different images of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, all seemingly adorned with a red scarf or bib. There are some relatively good ones. There is also one from the Rubin Museum in the United States, a cultural relic dating approximately from the 17th century. It is also said to be a very famous image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva in Tibetan Buddhism. Generally, in many thangkas of Tibetan Buddhism, the 8 great bodhisattvas are often in standing postures. This one is also from the Rubin Museum. It is a very famous and important collected image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Sometimes when I look at these various images, perhaps because I am Tibetan, I find that Tibetan-style images are relatively, in their entirety, the measurements, these aspects, the requirements are relatively strict. Of course, different ethnicities and different countries all have different representations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We do not have any discrimination judgments about these. As long as you have faith in any image or maintain a sense of reverence toward it, all of these are very good. So in the future, in different countries and among different ethnicities, if you want to propagate, you might use what is popular to that place, focusing on what people there already believe in and revere. That's also perfectly acceptable. Or whichever image people feel most connected to, for example, regarding the Indian image of Shakyamuni Buddha, everyone can accept it. Images of the world-honored one, however they are, we accept. But if it's a Thai-style image of Shakyamuni Buddha, perhaps Thai people prefer and have faith in that particular style of image. Perhaps that is relatively better. So when it comes to the images themselves, there's really no fundamental difference. But when manifesting before sentient beings, there are still some distinctions. Therefore, in the process of propagating, everyone should also cultivate a relatively inclusive and open heart. We cannot set our own vision and perspective too narrowly, thinking, I can only propagate this one form and cannot propagate others. This approach won't work. It should be approached with a relatively expansive vision, with a broad and generous mindset in our propagation efforts. Then we can embrace all the various manifestations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So we should also do our best. Everyone should make aspirations to propagate the teaching and practice of Ksitigarbha. Doing so will be extremely meaningful. Obtaining this precious human existence will then also be meaningful. Everything we do will be deeply meaningful. Today I'll conclude the teaching here.
Bandara Bandara